And welcome to the Market Authority Show. We are live here with Staci Russell. I'm your host, Stephanie Lugo. And today we are talking to Staci. I asked Staci to come on and give me a little bit of an update. So if you are a friend of the show, you have probably seen Staci before. She has come on and graced us with her presence to share a bit about her transformation and coaching with us in the Market Authority Academy. And the reason why I love doing these case studies is I think that it's really important to get a direct understanding of what real estate agents who are out there in the trenches are doing and what's working for them, what's not, because that is the best way for us all to learn and grow so that we can rise together. And this is definitely a time in the market where we could all use a little bit of that support. So Staci, welcome to the show. And thank you so much for giving us some of your time today. I'm so happy to have you.
Of course. Well, thank you so much. I'm always honored anytime you ask me to be on the podcast. So thank you for thinking of me.
Of course. So for those who haven't had a chance to meet you just yet, can you give a really quick little intro of where you're located and where you sell, how long you've been in the game? Just kind of give yourself a little introduction.
Yeah, of course. So I'm a former teacher, actually dance and drill team director, turned realtor. I did that for 6 years and taught 1 year through COVID and was like, time to get out of this. So now I have been selling real estate since June of 2021 in Spring, Texas, which is up in Northwest Houston area. And so pretty much sell all of Northwest. And sometimes for special friends and family, we'll go a little bit further than that, but it's already a pretty big area to cover just in that Northwest side of things. So.
Okay, perfect. So our friends from Houston, check out Staci for sure. Staci, tell me a little bit about where you were before you joined Market Authority Academy and like what your goals are. And then what I want to do after that is talk about like where you are on track to hitting those goals today, because it's a journey. I want to get kind of like the before and now look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think I joined MAA, I want to say maybe like 2 years ago, maybe even almost 3 years ago. It's been a little while. And when I first got into real estate, I was on a team. And so, at that time, you don't know what you don't know when you're a real estate agent. So luckily, I had a wonderful team that I was a part of. Another former educator that I was friends with started the team with someone he's good friends with. So it was a very nurturing environment, and they really helped me understand everything that we need to know about real estate. But there were still things that I was feeling like I was lacking, but I didn't really know. So when you talk about goals, I didn't know what my goals were because I had never been in the business. I didn't really know what to expect from a full year of real estate. I just knew that you've got the opportunity to make it what you want. And so I had an idea of what I wanted, but I just really needed some help fine-tuning my goals and fine-tuning how to get there. And so I had looked into a couple of different coaching opportunities, and I found you on Facebook, or sorry, YouTube. You were on Facebook too, but definitely found you mostly on YouTube. And I just really connected with you and how you talk about creating a business that will attract clients to you. Because I started with cold calling, which it did bring me business, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and it's very frustrating, and it's a grind. And I think it's great to do it if that's something you enjoy doing. But that wasn't something that I could see myself doing consistently for the entirety of my career in real estate. So I knew I needed to switch it up. And I really enjoyed the concept of attracting clients to you. And so that's what I really wanted to focus on. We had our consultation, and I was like, I already felt like I knew you because of YouTube. And yeah, it was great. So joining MAA really helped me get an understanding of how I want to build my business and where I need to focus and what activities I need to be doing in order to see that needle move in my business. And so the clarity has been night and day from starting real estate to now. Not only just learning the things that you learn within 3 years of real estate and how to run your business, but just really getting specific on what I want my business to look like.
I love that. So I want to talk about that. Like, what does your business look like today? And I want to know maybe like what a typical day might look like for you given where you are in business, several years in at this point, and given the market where it's at and the challenges that really all of us are kind of navigating today?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now, my business looks like I'm focusing on 4 core sources of business. And so I
Mhm.
have, because of Market Authority Academy, I have my designated days that I get to do all of this stuff, which thank God, because coming from education, I've always been a very structured person. But when you get
Yeah.
into real estate, you don't have somebody there to like set that structure for you. It can feel very overwhelming. So just really finding that structure that works best for me. I really try to stick to my power hours between 9 and 11, doing some form of prospecting and marketing. And so that time suits me best because I have a 5-year-old who will be going to kindergarten in the fall, which blows my mind. But I have to get them ready and to school. And so I have to allow myself some time in the morning to be able to get that done. But really focusing on my 4 core sources, which are first and foremost my sphere, so my family and friends. Second of all is my geo farm. So I've lived in my neighborhood for 10 years, going on 11. I know a lot of people in my community, and I've been heavily geo farming in that area. The third is social media. So I'm really trying to make an appearance on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and now YouTube, which we'll talk about a little bit later.
Yeah.
And then my fourth is open houses. And so really trying to structure my days to make sure that I am not only prospecting in those areas and lead generating, but also how am I maximizing the value out of those things. So, like for instance, if I'm doing an open house, I'm not strictly going to the open house 5 minutes before it starts and just hoping and praying that people walk in the door. There's a lot of marketing that goes into it, door knocking, passing out invitations, talking to neighbors, really trying to get my face out there. And the way that I've branded myself now that I'm not on my team anymore is specific to my neighborhood. So I have made very specific signs that say, your Terra Nova resident realtor, because that's my neighborhood that I'm in the Spring area. So anytime somebody sees that, they're like, oh, you work right in this area. So just trying to build that brand recognition is really what I'm focusing on right now.
That is such a cool focus to have too, because that's the kind of focus that pays dividends for years to come. And it can sometimes take a little while to like really see the full effect of it. But what have you seen so far in having that really intentional focus on that exact like local neighborhood brand that you're building? Like what results are we seeing so far?
I've seen really good results so far. And we talked about this the other day in our coaching session with MAA, but geofarming is just one of those things that takes time. And I
Mhm.
knew that going into it. But I felt like I had a really good opportunity to farm my neighborhood because I live there. And I've lived there for so long that I know a lot about the homes that were built in there. And so I had an opportunity to really show people my expertise in the area. I know the street names really well. I know, the year built and the square footage and all of that good stuff. So I just felt like it was a good way to capitalize on my knowledge of the area. And when I first started geofarming, it was mostly, I didn't have a ton of money. So I wasn't doing,
Mhm.
I wasn't mailing things out because it was just too expensive. So I was hand delivering my newsletter to save on costs. But then it's a cost versus time thing, right? So as I've gotten a little bit busier and gotten a little bit more money to spend specifically on marketing my business, that's now switched to mailers, which is great. And I have a lender partner who helps with that. So he splits that cost 50-50 with me, which is great.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, even from the very beginning, it took some time, but I did get phone calls from people, not specifically looking to sell immediately, but they were like, I really love the way that you're marketing yourself. They've literally said, I've never seen anybody do it the way that you do it, which is a really huge compliment for me because I want to be able to stand out and not, blend in with the other gajillion realtors that they know about. So that was a huge compliment. And then from there, I do a quarterly newsletter. So I do it starting in January, I do it in April, July, and then October. And that is really focused on my neighborhood, giving them some general information on what's been going on with me and my family and what's been going on in the neighborhood, upcoming events that we have going on. And then after the quarterly newsletter, in between those, I also have started with Core Fact, which you got me hooked up with. And they are amazing. My team used to pay for postcards for us. So that was actually really great to be able to have my lender partner help me with that too. But Core Fact has been great with the QR codes. And I've actually only done it for 2 months now, and I've already gotten about 10 leads from it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I was blown away because I used to make my own as well. And that's just time consuming. And I wasn't really getting a good response rate from the QR codes or anything like that. So this has been a really good investment of my money and my time. So I've gotten some clicks on that. So now just trying to follow up with those people and not make them feel pressured into anything, but just let them know like, hey, you did scan my code and I want to, introduce myself to you in this way. And yeah, then I'm also hosting events in my neighborhood as well. And so because I was a former educator, I am really big on educating people. That's my YouTube channel too. It's like educating buyers, sellers, and investors on all things real estate. So I'm big on that. But I just taught a class about protesting property taxes that was well attended. And then I just have some other, I'm calling them homeowner seminars because I don't want it to be so salesy to be like home seller seminar, right? Like I don't want that, connotation with it. So we're aiming more towards the homeowners and just trying to provide value and, how to update your home throughout the year, home maintenance tips, how to protest property taxes. And then I also have a real estate investment property that's an Airbnb. And so I'm going to be doing a class on how to leverage your equity and invest in real estate.
Oh my gosh, that is amazing. And thank you for sharing it in detail. How are you staying organized to keep all of that stuff going? Because that's a lot of plates to keep spinning.
Yeah. And I think we were talking about this the other day about like, there are times where I feel like I'm really focused on lead generation. And then there are times where I feel like I'm just kind of maintaining the activities in my business. But I think that this goes back into maximizing my lead sources. If geofarming is going to be a lead source for me, I'm going to squeeze it until it's dry. And so keeping it straight is difficult, but I work really, really hard to have clear communication with our president of our HOA. I'm very lucky to be, we weren't friends before. Even though we've lived here, I didn't really know her because I was a teacher and, had after school practices and stuff. So I never really went to the HOA meetings, but when I got into real estate, I just made it a point to go, and not even for anything real estate, but just to make those connections and see what was going on in the community. And she's been wonderful. Her and our vice president work really well. They're also former teachers in the same district that I was in. So we kind of get each other like that. But they work really hard to help me with anything I need. And so I just communicate about the clubhouse rental because that's where I do a lot of these events. And so we work on the calendar ahead of time to just make sure, that the dates are open. And then I have also kind of, besides the events, offered to host like a trunk or treat for kids because I have a 5-year-old and I know there's other kids in the community that don't want to go out or their parents don't want them going out, with the big kids. So we do things like that and it's been really well received. And yeah, just trying to be as organized as possible, planning them out in advance and trying to get the word out because once again, I don't want it. People are going to forget, right? Like if I tell them now, they're going to forget. So it's my responsibility to make sure that I am keeping them updated, passing out flyers. So I do sorry, I feel like this is a little scattered, but I'm like trying to keep it all straight. A market update on a Facebook page that I run for our community. So I try to really get the word out on that platform as well for anybody that's on there.
Do you run that page or does someone else run it?
I was lucky enough to be able to run it. There was another page originally that I don't know how I ended up on it, but apparently it was only for people who grew up in the area. Oh. And I was posting on it, but nobody else was. And I think eventually people were like, who is this person? And then I found out that it wasn't people who currently live here. So then I was like, well, I'm just going to create my own page then. So
Nice.
I run the page. I try to keep it a very positive place. I do not want it to be like a next door or,
Mhm.
a negative group. So it's really for people to connect, people who live in our community, give recommendations, and then I do the market update. And I figure, once a week is enough. People don't want to hear about real estate 24/7. So once a week is good. And then I'm pushing out those events for everything that we're doing through the Facebook page.
I'm so glad that you're taking the time to share these details with us, because when I talk about farming to agents, a lot of times I hear oh, well, I mean, we've done a couple of mailers here and there, or yeah, I was thinking about doing farming, so I was going to just like throw out a postcard and just see what happens. But you and I know that that's not it. And I think that what you're doing is like a masterclass on what modern farming needs to be, where you have the mailers, you have the social media presence, you have the boots on the ground where you're hosting open houses when you can, you're hosting community events in the clubhouse. Like that to me is bare minimum what a really
Mhm.
comprehensive farming approach needs to be, because otherwise you're just paying money for this.
Right.
If all you're doing is that postcard. And what's so funny
Yeah.
is you were able to do all of these things before you started paying money for a postcard, because I feel like a lot of these other activities are basically free, if I'm not
Mhm.
mistaken.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I think it's just very important in farming for people to just be able to see your face and know your
Mhm.
personality, because even if you live in the neighborhood, people don't care. What value are you bringing to them? And, how are they interacting with you and connecting with you? And I think that that's true in anything, not just farming. But it's very important when they get your postcard in the mail with your face on it, for them to stop and say, oh, I know her, like she hosted an event and it was so great and she was so nice, like that's what I want people to think of. Not necessarily real estate first, but that I'm a friend, that I'm kind and caring, and want to help them before anything else.
That is so cool. Okay, so I love that. I love that perspective. I'm going to take a minute and plug you. If you could share, just for those watching, if you're like as into this as I am, because I'm loving this conversation, share your
Yes, girl.
and share your Instagram and your YouTube, so that anyone who's watching this can go and follow along, so that they can see some of the stuff that you share as you're doing this, if you could.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's Stacy, Staci, dot Renee, Renee, dot Russell, Russell. So that's my handle for Instagram and for TikTok and YouTube.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and put that in there just so you guys have it. That is so fun. So okay, let's talk about specific tools that you're using to like keep on top of all this stuff, because like we're talking about three social media platforms, four technically. We're talking about the
Yeah.
farming, we're talking about the database and sphere and referral. What tools are you using the most right now, either on the computer or off?
So Asana has been a lifesaver. And
Mhm.
I thank God, and you for bringing that into my life, because honestly, I don't know what I did without it. Yeah, that is amazing that you can create, your whole task, your project and everything and what you need to do. And I like Asana because it has different views based on what that task is. So
Mhm.
for certain tasks, I may want the calendar view. For other tasks, I may want the checklist and all of that. But I'm very much a list person,
Yeah.
and it makes me feel good to check things off my list.
Uh-huh.
so, uh, so Asana has been a life changer. Google Sheets, the whole platform of Google in general, slides, sheets, all of that good stuff. Docs, I use
Yep.
that a lot in my business, and it's free, which is great.
Mhm.
And then I'm also using a ton of Canva. Um, Luckily, Karen Ann turned me on to Modern Agent Social Club. So
Mhm.
I do pay for that. And it's been good for me so far. When I first started using that, I was very much just implementing and not personalizing as much. It was just like get something on social media to grow. And so now I have been able to, pay the money for it, but I'm not using it the way that they have it specifically. I'm really trying to personalize it and customize it to me, turning a lot of them into reels. And
Ooh,
so
that's
really,
smart. So
yeah.
wait, walk me through how you do that. I want to know because I know that a lot of people listening probably also we all love Modern Agent Social Club. So tell me how you're taking one of their templates and using that as a reel.
Yeah. So what I do, the end of every month is I try to plan my entire month out for the next month, which is something that I never did before because I used to get really overwhelmed by it. But Asana has really helped with it. And so I take the template for the next month that Modern Agent Social Club puts out, and I write down all of the topics, and then I put a dash next to it and put if it's specific to buyers or sellers. And really kind of try to alternate. Like I try to really stick to a schedule of, Monday sellers, Tuesday buyers, Wednesday investors, because I really like to work with investors since I own a short-term rental property. I also will touch on a little bit with renters, and then I try to throw some personal stuff in there too, so that it's constantly changing up, and I'm speaking to all of the people that I want to serve. And so I will write them all out, and then also put the hook, right? So like, what about this post is the hook and what's going to get somebody's attention? I'm loving right now the really short reels. I don't know if those are like still a thing or not, but they're just so easy. And so if I'm going to stay committed, and we talked about this yesterday too, right? With our habits.
Yeah.
If I'm going to stay committed, it has to be easy. I'm not going to spend hours and hours and hours on one of my lead sources. I just don't have the time to do it because I'm a realtor, not a content creator. And so just knowing the basics now of, what is the hook, what's going to get their attention, and then what is some really cool visuals that I can put with some trending audio. And then I just put that out there. And typically I'll also take, the great thing about Modern Agent Social Club is that they've got the description in Canva. So you can just like copy it and put it in your description. And then I just tweak it. But also taking those topics and seeing also how they apply to what I have been experiencing, and so that I can make a personal connection and tell a personal story, because I feel like people tend to resonate with that a little bit more.
Yeah, I love that too. And I'm glad that you mentioned that. So when we are talking about personalizing in Market Authority Academy, I think that that's like a missing piece that a lot of agents miss. So sometimes they'll come and say, I just don't want to do like these templates because they never really like fit or resonate. Like you can tell I didn't make it. And so what we do in Market Authority is a little work through the brand builder is what we call to do some market research on the ideal clients, on the area that you're looking to, like in your example, GeoFarm, and make sure that we are taking that unique perspective where we're at and plugging it in to helpful things like templates to make sure that they are perfectly resonant of your brand and your market. Have you found that, like, are you using specific things in Market Authority to kind of couple with stuff like Modern Agent Social Club to make that even better?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, well, I got the idea to, alternate what I'm posting about with the rolling content calendar that I got through MAA. So that kind of helps me actually nail down what I wanted to do versus just kind of like throwing things out there and hoping something would stick.
The YouTube one?
YouTube, and then I kind of also tweaked it to Instagram as well.
That's really smart. That's super cool. I didn't think about doing that.
Yeah. Well, you're welcome. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm like, I'm going to check that out and see if I can like help make another lesson about that. That's super cool.
Yeah, I just kind of was like, well, if this works for YouTube, like I think we can tweak it to make it work for the other platforms as well. So that's kind of what helped me figure out, like, Mondays are sellers, Tuesdays are buyers, like that kind of a schedule. Yeah. And I mean, I think that the more that I go through MAA, the more that I learn. It's not a program where it's like you go through it once and you're like, okay, I'm an expert in all things real estate and marketing. Every single time I go through it, there's something new that clicks that may have been there before, but I just wasn't at the level to like take it in at that point in time. And so then I go through it again and it's like, oh my gosh, like that makes so much sense. So really is just fine tuning the way that you're marketing and the way that you're branding and putting your message out there. And so MAA has helped me a ton, not only just with like the content calendar, but like the launch pad. And I'm obsessed with, I open this every day, but like my metrics, I have a metrics and goals tracker. But also I've merged some of those spreadsheets to where it's in one, that I can see like my quarterly goals that are aligned with my 12-year or 12-week year book that we were talking about the other day. So I have my quarterly goals, and then I have my pipeline, my leads, and my scorecard, because we used to be on the home run team. So I still call it my scorecard of closed transactions. And then it also has my metrics on there so that I can go in every month and track that. But I mean, before I started MAA, I wasn't doing any of that. And so I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what business was like bringing in the majority of my business, like what lead source was bringing in the majority of my business. I didn't know any of that. And so now I have a much more predictable understanding of, if I do this, this is what I can expect to get out of it. If I want to double down, this is what I can expect to get out of it. So it's a nice feeling to have that control in a career that can feel very unpredictable.
Yeah, it's funny too, because a lot of us get into the business looking for a little bit of that freedom and flexibility, but without having, like, you only get that freedom and flexibility in having the organization and the structure and like the systems in place. And those just take a while. It's not something that you just implement overnight and then it's done. You do have to, it's kind of like a really great pair of leather shoes, right? Like you have to walk a couple miles and then before they break in and really fit with your business. And what I'm loving that I'm hearing is that you're taking all of these different tools and you're taking the liberty to tweak them, and you're being curious about, like, what can I do to make this even better for what I'm doing in my unique business? Not just like having this sense of, oh, well, it needs to be perfect and it needs to be this way. And like, that's the only, I like that you're taking that liberty, because it shows that you really have a little bit more, you're taking more responsibility for your results, which is really fun to see. It's a very admirable trait.
Oh, thank you very much. I think when I first started, I was very much like, I have to do it just like Stephanie, and I have to do it. But I mean, as I've gone through, it's just, there's so many different people in MAA, and I have learned that we don't all learn the same way, and we don't all use the tools the same way. And so like if this is the way that makes sense to me in my business, then this is how I'm going to do it. And I love hearing other people in our coaching group that talk about the same thing, like, oh, I took this and I just kind of tweaked it to what I needed. And I think having the flexibility to do that and be imperfect, because I am a perfectionist, but I've learned to be imperfect and just do the work. No matter what it looks like, just put it out there. Then that has been a good mindset to adopt.
I love that. If you are listening to this and you're like, man, I want to hang out with people like Stacey and I want to use tools like that, you can go to stephanielugo.com/coaching. You're going to see all the details, well, many of the details on the program, but you can go and click the button that says apply. And what that does is it's going to take you to our calendars, and you can book a call with me and my team to learn more about Market Authority. And when you join that call, it's a conversation a lot like this, where we have to learn about your business. I want to learn like what you're doing right now and what you think is working and what's not working and what challenges you're navigating. And at that point, if it seems like we can help you through those challenges, then we'll share whether or not like it's a good fit both ways. To your point, Stacey, I think it's really important anytime you're doing a coaching or anytime you're trying to work in implementing new things into your program, it's got to be a fit. And I think that you're showing a lot of different ways on how you're applying things that that are universal in terms of like what really works, but you're still tweaking it to your unique business and market. And I think that that's what makes the biggest difference. Here's a random question for you. Okay. Let's say, okay, slower market. A lot of us are just seeing that volume in general is lower. It's not even that it's a slower market. It's just sales volume in general is lower because we're just not in 2021 anymore, 2022. let's say you are like, okay, I need to have that predictable business. I need to lean on those actions that you'd mentioned that lead to that predictable result. I need to get some clients in my pipeline. What are you going to do? What are like the 1 or 2 or 3 activities that you're going to double down on and go all in on to beef up your pipeline?
So first and foremost, my sphere. They are your friends and your family, and so they want to see you succeed. And it's not their job to remember that you're in real estate. They have a life and they have their own job, and so it may feel sometimes like we're touching and being like, "Hey, don't forget I'm a real estate agent. Do you have anybody that you can refer me to?" It doesn't have to be phrased in that way, but just sparking the conversation. And I actually did that yesterday and this morning.
Nice.
Reached out to a few of my people and just said, hey, how are you guys doing? Tried to start a conversation to get it going. And then it always kind of takes a natural turn to, oh, how are you? How's business? And that's when I kind of get to tell them the fun news of the market sucks. Which I think they already know. And I think
they're like, and how are you, Stacy?
Yeah, they're like, are you drinking right now? Or I'm like, no, not yet. It's not time yet. No. But I just ask, as nicely as possible, like, hey guys, like, I'm not gonna lie to you. It's a little bit rough right now. I try to let them know like that I do have things going on in my business, right? Like I have so much in my pipeline, which is true. I do. I have a ton in my pipeline, which I'm very grateful for. And when that actually does happen, it's going to be a crazy year and I can't wait for that to happen. But right now things are just a little slow. And I really loved working with you. And I would appreciate if you would just, let anybody that who's looking to buy, sell, rent, invest, anything with real estate, if you would pass my name along. And then I try to also just say, and better yet, if you could pass me their contact information, I would love to make that introduction. Because once again, people are busy and it's not their job to find you your clients. And so if you can take that off of them, they may have somebody who's like, oh, I actually do know somebody who's looking to sell or someone whose lease is up and needs to move. So, just kind of communicating with that. That's the number one thing that I would do is reach out to your sphere, your family, your friends, your past clients. The second thing is really following up with your current pipeline. There are, like I said earlier, like I have a lot in my pipeline. Thank God I have a lot in my pipeline. But interest rates and prices are just making people kind of pause, which I totally understand. I get it. I'm lucky to have a very low interest rate on my primary residence. However, I do own an investment property and that one is not so low. So I get it. I get it. But I just try to really see where I can be of service to them and help them get the knowledge that they need and the resources, information that they need to be able to make the best decision for them right now. And that may not mean selling or buying right now. And that's okay. But that doesn't mean that we end the relationship. I'm still going to be following up with them because things can change. You just never know. Things can change. So really just following up with them, making sure I'm keeping that personal contact and just meeting them where they are.
I love that. I think that we can always make time for that. You had mentioned, you referred to the conversation that we had yesterday, or was it yesterday? It was yesterday. Time is so weird. When we were talking, about how to stay consistent with those types of activities, I want to kind of touch on that just as we have a few minutes, because I feel like that was such a helpful conversation that would be relevant just to anybody listening to this. When it comes to your lead generation activities, your lead gen and marketing, like the revenue producing activities, would you say that you tend to know what you should do, but just not quite get to it? Or maybe overcomplicate the actual activities that you need to do, so there's some murkiness there? Do you remember what you had mentioned on the call?
Yeah, I know what I need to be doing, but I don't always get to it.
So what was one of the best tips that we talked about it? You said it's just make it obvious, make it attractive. What we did was we ran through a a 4-step rule to really great habits, because it is just instilling a habit that you stick to. The
Right.
4 great habits that we ran into are actually from a book called Atomic Habits. If you guys haven't read that, it's practically required reading in Market Authority Academy, but I feel like everybody and their mother has read it at this point. What was one of the biggest takeaways for you from going through installing a really solid habit with lead generation?
Making it easy.
Mm,
It's got to be. There's so many things in life that are hard and complicated. And so having it very easy and ready to go is key. And I think like knowing what I need to do, but focusing on other things as a way to kind of justify like, well, I am doing work, which I am doing work, right? But like, am I doing the right work? Am I doing what I need to be doing to continue to build my pipeline? And hopefully convert some of those leads. So that was my biggest takeaway, was make it easy. And I think that I have a little bit of work to do on kind of getting back on track with really sticking to my schedule, like habits, sticking to that
mhm.
schedule from 9 to 11 and making it happen for a solid 2 hours, hour and a half, 2 hours, and then focusing on the other things, because the other things will still be there and I can get to them, but I need to be focusing on my lead gen.
Yeah. If you are listening to this and you're like, man, I've definitely been there, you got to go to stephanielugo.com/coaching. Check it out. This is literally what we're working on this week, but always often throughout the Market Authority Academy. What are you doing right now, Stacey, to make it easy? Like, what was one big takeaway that you're doing to make it easier to stick to?
So I think having a sauna is really easy, and it
Okay.
does take a little bit of time up front to put everything in. And I
Hmm.
think for some people, they can get lost in the like, ooh, this is organization like at a max, and so they could get. I
Hmm.
feel like you and I would be like that, like, oh, we have to like do all these things, right? But just having it a end point where it's like, okay, everything that could possibly be in here is in here. And now I actually have to do the work. But I love being able to open a sauna every day and it just tells me what I have to do. And so then I do it and I just check it off. And another thing that I was doing really well that I need to get back into is the 10 by 10 by 5. And we talked about this
Yeah.
yesterday, Shamika, and I was very much resonating with what she was saying. I had a goal when I first started with you. I think I had like 600 followers on Instagram and I grew to 1,000 in a short period of time, which was great. And now I'm at like a little over 1,100. And it's not necessarily all about the vanity metrics of the followers and stuff, but um, it is important to do the 10 by 10 by 5 to make sure that you are communicating with people and having those conversations.
Hmm.
I feel like now that I'm not on my team anymore and I'm a solo agent, I sometimes find myself being very isolated and not wanting to reach out and have those conversations because I am a solo agent, right? Where before I was on a team with 8 people and it was a very social thing. And so then I kind of got that energy to be like, oh, now I can go have more conversations with people. I'm a very social person, but when I am by myself, I like to be like by myself.
Hmm.
So I know what I need to be doing, 10 by 10 by 5, and having those 10 conversations a day. And so I'm trying to pick that back up and just make it a habit to keep it in there.
Okay. I love that. I love that. Okay, I have some fun rapid fire questions for you as we kind of start to come to a close here, because I do want to be a good steward of your time. Stacey, this has been so incredibly valuable for me to hear your perspective, but I know also, like, I've been watching people who are watching the live stream and the number has not budged. Like, people are glued
Oh,
in listening to this, which is like super fun.
well,
Um,
well, that makes me so happy. I'm glad.
Well, I don't know if you can see it or not, so I wanted to make sure that you knew. But if you're listening to this, I need you to either give Stacey like a big thanks, or if you have questions for Stacey specifically on anything that she has covered, drop those in the comments and we can add those. But just a couple of like fun rapid fire questions for you, if I may.
Of course.
Okay. Okay. Describe to me in a quick like 1 or 2 liner who your ideal client is, like your top favorite ideal client.
First time home buyers and new construction home buyers.
Love that. Love that. And there's a lot of like alignment there too between the two, right? Okay. So second question, what's your CRM?
I use KV Core.
Mhm.
However, I took what I have from MAA. I know this is rapid fire. I suck at rapid fire. I'm so
It's
sorry.
okay. Me too. I know. I don't know. I have no business doing rapid fire because I do too.
I'm like, this is going off on a tangent. I'm so sorry. But yeah, when I love what you say about like, even if you have a CRM, you need to have a separate spreadsheet. So I really rely heavily on my database starter. And I just add to that. And then I will also add them to KV Core and constant contact whenever I need to do that. But KV Core, and it does what I need it to do. It's part of my brokerage. I don't pay for it. Well, I pay for it, but I don't pay directly to it. It comes from my templates and all of that. But KV Core, and then my Google spreadsheet from the database starter from MAA.
I love it. I still use that too because I use Follow Up Boss, but we still use like our master spreadsheet. So I'm right there with you. Okay.
Yeah.
So next question, worst advice you've ever gotten in real estate?
Oh gosh. Oh.
I know there's a lot.
I know, like, oh gosh, worst advice. I don't know about worst advice. I feel like I've been lucky to have been surrounded by a lot of people who have given me really good advice. But I will say, just kind of on the flip side of things, don't be an agent that doesn't communicate. I'll say that.
I like that.
It's really frustrating.
I like that. Especially with all the changes that are coming out.
Yes. Yeah. I've had some where it's like, I can't ever get in contact with these people. And it literally blows my mind. I'm like, how does this person have clients? Because they're not advocating for them. They're not answering the phone or replying to emails.
I know. It's totally wild. Okay. This is going to be a tough one to follow up with. What's the best advice that you've gotten as a real estate agent?
Do the work.
Do
the work.
I love that. Okay. Stacy, let's end on that note. You guys, if you're listening to this, be like Stacy, go do the work. You shared so many incredible, like tactical, strategic ways that people can start taking action right now. And that was part of why I was so excited to have you on the podcast, because I knew that you were going to really bring it today, and you absolutely did. If you guys are listening to this, head out and find Stacy on YouTube, which we didn't get to cover, so I think we need to do an encore. Find Stacy on Instagram. Make sure you check her out. She is not only talking the talk, but she is walking the walk and sending you receipts. So check her out on the socials. Stacy, I just want to acknowledge you for always being so genuine and real and allowing us to kind of go there on your journey and see what it's really like as you're walking this path, because there's a lot of people who want to talk about how they're doing in real estate, but not really like specifically what they're doing. And that to me is like where the real meat is. And I appreciate you always being so generous with your time and your experience with us here on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you, and thanks for having me on. And yes, we are a big family, a big real estate family, whether it be on MAA or just in general. And it's so important for us to have these conversations and support each other and help each other. So go do the work, make sure that you support people.
You guys, literally, this is like exactly how Stacy is, even when she's not recording. Like you're just so easy to cheer for. I love it. Awesome, you guys. And if you do want to check out more of Market Authority, again, the way that you're going to do that is go to stephanielugo.com/coaching. Some details are there, but if you really want to understand how it can help you transform your business, how it can help you get organized, how it can help you focus on the exact right revenue producing activities you need to be doing in order to succeed in this market and really any other, then book a call with us. You'll hit the button that says apply to book a time on our calendar. And I'd love to hear how it's going for you and see if I can help. Stacy, thanks so much, you guys. And thank you to everybody else who tuned in today.
Thank you.
Thanks.